Hello there. MPs are in line to get a pay rise which will more than cover the increase in the cost of their living. But what about the rest of us? That's right. MPs are due for a bumper pay rise, which we will pay for. They will be amply rewarded for their failures, but for the rest of us, the vulgar and profane, we will have to shut up and put up with the rampant inflation now set to bear down upon us. The old, the vulnerable, the poor, those who have lost their jobs because they didn't comply, will all find themselves facing fuel and food poverty this winter and into the spring, whilst our betters in Westminster will be well looked after. Not for us the comfort of an assured pay rise to offset any increase in the cost of living. No, we as a nation are expected to breathe a sigh of relief that MPs will not be out of pocket. Yes, if their standards body agrees to it, they will be getting an automatic rise in their basic salaries of about 2.7% from April onwards, to take them from £81,932 a year to over 84,000 quid. And remember that ministers get oodles more than that. And on that same day, the new national insurance contributions come down like a hammer to steal another 1.25% from most of our wages. Inflation is set to strangle our finances and the national economy, and household energy prices will just about bankrupt many. Then there's things like council tax and the broken state pension triple lock. And that's without mentioning all the businesses up and down the country that will have to stump up for all those extras too, without having their bills paid for by the taxpayer. Yes, small businesses also have to increase their employer national insurance contributions. And they have to pay the huge increases in the energy costs, and they have to pay increased prices to buy in the base goods they need to run their businesses. That means they have to put their prices up. And I wonder how many company directors of small firms who've already been hit by the pandemic will now find any recovery they were hoping for choked off before it's even started. So let's not forget that our MPs have offices which are heated at our expense, and our MPs have stomachs which are filled at our expense, and when they need to travel, it is also paid for by our taxes. And that's without all the subsidised splendour of Westminster, heated by all the hot air they generate. In normal times, MPs' pay goes up in step with public sector pay, as calculated by the mathematicians inside the Office for National Statistics, the ONS. That is then passed on to the MP standards body, the Independent Parliamentary Standards Authority, or IPSA, that makes the decision. The one saviour we have here is that MPs' pay was frozen last year due to the pandemic. And as far as I know, those rules are still in place until April this year. But remember that MPs did get a 10 grand boost for expenses incurred due to the pandemic. But that pay freeze from last year was not just MPs, it also included all public sector workers, except the NHS and the low paid. Now, it was announced in the Autumn Budget and Spending Review in October that public sector workers would receive a fair and affordable pay rise in the 2022 to 2023 and 2023 to 2024 periods. And the latest on that I could find was a House of Commons Library briefing saying no decision had yet been taken. Although IPSA, who can overrule an MP pay rise, has said that a decision will be taken early this year. Now the Sun quotes the Taxpayers Alliance as saying, "Now is not the time for MPs to get a pay rise." Something I suspect most taxpayers would agree with. With the TPA Chief Exec John O'Connell saying, "Politicians' pay should be linked to the country's economic performance to show we're all in it together." Now, MPs used to vote for their own pay rises once a year, to much public outrage. But now they are shielded from that decision by the existence of IPSA, a body that was set up under the Parliamentary Act of 2009 in response to the MPs' expenses scandal, and IPSA now oversees MPs' pay and expenses. So if IPSA says they can get a pay rise, MPs can just say, "Nothing to do with me, Gov." But at least you can use the IPSA website to find out how much your MP is costing you every year. Now the question is, should MPs be getting the same pay rise as public sector workers once those fair and affordable increases have been decided on? But also bear in mind that once the country starts recovering, IPSA might take the view in future years that an extra rise is due to MPs because they missed out last year and maybe this year. But there's also the House of Lords to consider. Their allowance increases are now automatically linked to the rises that IPSA gives to MPs. In 2020, MPs and the red bench polishers in the House of Lords got a nice little inflation-busting rise of 3.1%. This took the Lords' daily allowance from £313 up to £323 for every day they sit and engage in parliamentary business. So anything the green benches get, the red benches get too, automatically. And in the current economic climate, all those extra pay and allowances get slapped onto the national debt. Now, it seems that the French President Emmanuel Macron is misreading the EU mood of his own country. But before I get onto that, I just want to say a massive thank you to all my Super Thanks, Patreon and PayPal supporters, as well as those that do buy a mug with my mug on it. Links in the descriptions box below. You really do help me keep this channel going. So President Macron is failing to understand the feelings of his own voters where their thoughts on the European Union are concerned. Or does he understand them, but he doesn't want to listen maybe? Now Macron is undeniably a total EU file. As far as he's concerned, France is a part of the EU and nothing more. Just look at the replacement of the French flag by the EU flag over the tomb of the unknown soldier at the Arc de Triomphe just a few days ago, a stunt that backfired politically on the EU-loving French leader. And Macron will have savoured that France took over the 6-month rotating presidency of the EU on the 1st of January this year. Although his plans for replacing the English language with French within the EU agencies might not gain the universal approval he thinks it will. But a recent poll shows that his people are not so enamoured with the Brussels bureaucrats as he is. Respondents were asked whether or not they thought being a member state of the EU was advantageous to France or not. And the results came out as follows. Advantages outweigh disadvantages, 27%. Advantages equal to disadvantages, 39%. Disadvantages outweigh advantages, 33%. That's much more negative than positive, and not the sort of answer Macron would have wanted. But this is not some sort of new phenomenon. No. Back in January 2018, President Macron was asked on The Ma Show if France would have voted to leave the EU in the same circumstances as Brexit if given the choice. And Macron replied, yes, probably. So here we have a French president who, far from being out of step with his people, thoroughly understands them but works against their wishes. He's obviously another globalist who thinks he knows better than the great unwashed he supposedly leads. Now, ignoring the people did not go down so well for the French aristocracy back in 1848, did it? So overall and on balance, the French appear to think it is disadvantageous for France to be an EU member state. Go on, Macron, give them a referendum. So what's your opinion on pay rises for MPs and Lords? Please like and comment below. Please subscribe and like this video, buy a mug and support me on Patreon or PayPal, and thank you for watching.